Hi guys, so I think that is most people logged on. So welcome to today's webinar, brought to you by Oliver James. Today we are joined by Paul O'Byrne, Sophia Mazaras and Max Heath. So I'll hand over to them to introduce themselves. Paul, would you like to start?
Sure, thanks, Maz. So I'm Paul, I'm the Head of Innovation at Oliver James. I've been here for about 18 months and prior to that, I've got a history in digital transformation and corporate venturing at Deloitte.
Fantastic. And Sophia?
So, hi, my name is Sophia and I'm the Senior Manager for Team Germany in the data and IT security market, leading a team of market expert consultants. In our divisions, we cover further technical markets as well, such as Salesforce, and we all just work really closely together with our colleagues in order to provide a wider service to our clients in Germany.
Fantastic. And Max?
Hi guys, I'm Max. I lead our North America data and AI function. I'm a 15-time certified technical leader and recruitment subject matter expert in workforce transformation talent strategy. At OJ, I'm a prominent mentor responsible for the placement of individuals from students to C-level execs. I've done that across 19 different countries, hosted multiple career guidance talks, and I'm an active player in helping individuals take the first steps in growing their careers.
Amazing, thank you. And Max, could you please give a current overview of your role within the technology space at Oliver James?
Yep, so currently I'm heading up the North America data engineering, analytics and architecture areas. We recruit anything from artificial intelligence, machine learning space, all the way across to data science, architecture, standard engineering, anything business intelligence, ETL. Any technology innovations that come with that, obviously, even across the crypto market. So.
Fantastic. And Sophia, I'll pass on to you. Could you please give a current overview of your role in the tech space?
So, my team and I are working on a client strategy in order to build the tech Oliver James brand within Germany. Our collaboration with the Frankfurt team, who are focusing on the finance industry and finance sector, is an essential part of our daily work, as we are an extended service to the current finance offerings among their clients. Our ultimate mission is to become the go-to recruitment partner within IT and data markets for the clients based in Germany to ensure we get the best opportunities for our candidates. We are working with a quite large portfolio of clients, from banking sector to technical consultancies all the way through to smaller tech startups.
Fantastic, thank you. And Paul, last but not least.
Thanks. So my job is to understand how technology can solve the problems that Oliver James face and enable it to continue to scale in the way it has done over the last 5 years. It's also there to understand actually how the emerging technologies can be applied to the recruitment industry as a whole, and to work out actually which is the best way to use technology within recruitment.
Fantastic, thank you very much, guys. So we'll be moving on to our next question. Sophia, I'll start with you on this one, if that's all right. So what recent innovations have you seen that will make a big impact on the technology market?
Yes, thank you. Is it working? Yeah. So the European companies are generally leading the way in developing and implementing AI technologies, and there is definitely a huge demand for professionals with skills in areas such as machine learning, natural language processing, and computer vision. Besides that, almost all of our clients are either already operating in the cloud or are going through a transformation and planning on moving from on-premise into the cloud. Here are, of course, the 3 main providers being Azure by Microsoft, AWS from Amazon, and GCP from Cloud Platform. These skills being almost a basic criteria nowadays for every candidate looking to work within the new innovations. Saying that, European companies lately hire rather for potentials within candidate skills compared to the normal years of experience, which has been a big shift within the data market over the last few years. Our clients are mostly ready to invest into people who are ready to still work with the older stack, let's say the on-premise technologies, whilst being open to developing their skills and completing certificates to become innovation leaders within the cloud space.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Pia. And Max, I'll come to you next. Hi, Max. I'll come to you next if that's all right.
Yeah. Currently, from my perspective in my market, the main one that obviously a lot of people are going to be very aware of is ChatGPT. From a data side of things, people are actually able to input code functions that they've already written and have it cross-check the code that they've written and make sure that it runs properly. So it can also provide on the back of that suggestions for code improvements, different strings that would run as alternatives more efficiently. And they could even say they want a string of code written in Python that executes a certain process, and it will actually write them that full code string completely out of nothing. It's not copy pasted from anywhere. It's completely fresh code. It seems to be regularly updated too. The most recent version, GPT-4, is by far one of the most powerful AI systems on the planet right now.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. And Paul, I'll come to you next.
I think it's a really interesting answer from Max, and I think the bit that I find ChatGPT really interesting to me is not necessarily the AI that sits behind it. I think a lot of those models have been proven to work, and they're scaling, and the database that they're actually working from and what they work from is increasing. But it's more the accessibility that allows. So it can take someone like me who's never written a line of code in my life to then be able to ask it complex machine learning questions that wouldn't have been anywhere near capable of for me to do 5 years ago. And I think that's kind of a theme that we're starting to see, is that accessibility in the emerging technologies, whether it's kind of the decentralized finance space, whether it's looking at image recognitions or sentiment analysis. All these things are becoming much more accessible, and we're starting to see kind of like the ability to write your own code without ever being able to code, build your own mobile applications without being able to build your own mobile applications. I think that's a really interesting kind of trend that we're seeing within innovation.
Fantastic, thank you. And Paul, just touching on some of those innovations that you have just mentioned, would you say that you see more problem-based innovation in the market at the minute, or would you say it's largely solution-focused innovation?
I think people tend to focus on the solution more than the problem, and that can sometimes lead to not necessarily solving a big enough problem. So if we think about how startups fail or why startups fail, it's predominantly because they've picked a problem that either doesn't need solving or doesn't need solving by enough people, and that leads to then cash flow issues. So from my perspective, being problem focused in the first place around what you're trying to solve and working out whether that is a valuable problem to solve for the market is really, really important. I think then what you've got to balance it is with a little bit of that kind of blue sky thinking of actually, well, what is out there that's currently there, and what can we apply to the things that we see that's there. I think you've just got to be really careful about how much time you spend focusing on the solution, because you've got to understand the problem in really, really big detail. You've got to fall in love with that problem before you start then exploring the solution.
Definitely. And building on that, what would you say the considerations are when looking to implement either types of those innovation?
So for the solution, the kind of first approach, or that blue sky thinking, it's about making sure it's time boxed. It's about setting out actually what do you want to understand about those technologies early on. It's about really kind of stopping yourself from just messing about with tech and losing months and investing into no result. And for problem focus, it's about being really structured in the way that you approach those problems. So whether you're making kind of root cause analysis in terms of determining what contributes to it, whether you're looking at ensuring that you're being unbiased in the way that you're clarifying and qualifying those problems, and then actually making sure that it's not just down to one person. The amount of times that I get asked about, well, you're the head of innovation, go innovate type thing, and actually a lot of my role is about enabling others to innovate. I think there's a tendency to think that it's a skill set where that can't be learnt, but actually understanding the problem and then trying to focus on how to improve it through innovation is a skill set that could definitely be taught.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And please remember to all those watching us today that we do have the chat tool for any questions that you might have, as we'll be coming on to our Q&A at the end, so feel free to drop any in that chat tool. And I'll come on to our next question. Paul, I believe I'll start with you. Actually, no, I'll come to Max and switch it up a little bit if that's all right. So Max, how do you see the current rate of tech innovation affecting the markets you work in? And would you say that there is much acceleration to this innovation?
So in ways, it can affect it very negatively. People learn technologies in order to specialize, and there's probably a new tool released every 2 years. And so what you end up having is a string of people that are working on what's known as legacy platforms or legacy technologies, which are the old ones, basically stuff like Hadoop, Hive, HDFS. And then you have a very small sector of people that end up working on the attractive new technologies and trying to specialize in those. Going into cloud-based data warehouses, stuff in Snowflake, Databricks. When you look at deeper terms of cryptos, you have things like Rust, Apache Ballista, and Apache Arrow, which are all very new. Apache Arrow is still in testing phase, but there are about 85 people that are currently trying to specialize in that across the States. What it does is it creates quite a negative impact for the market, since it's such a large spread of tools based on what people are looking for. And in terms of acceleration, I see it being regularly improved on, worked on over the course of this year, and I'd suspect there's going to be even more competitive tools being developed by businesses. So definitely no signs of deceleration in this area. And I would say that after recent events, that's probably going to be very heavily focused on governance tools, master data management, moving away from things like Informatica, which will eventually become legacy as well.
Fantastic, cheers, Max. And Zafira, I'll come on to you next.
Yeah, so as mentioned, for instance, AI is one of the most popular new tech innovations. And currently, pretty much everyone wants to get involved in Germany. This unfortunately ends up in being a busy candidate market, which comes with, unfortunately, many unqualified data science and AI professionals. Candidates are very keen on all these new technologies, however, often forget that there is a certain pathway to walk through and learn first order trends, be at the basis before you can be efficiently and actively working within the newest technologies.
Definitely. Cheers, guys, for your answers. They were great. And I will be moving on to the next question. Paul, I will come to you first for this one, if that's all right. What would you say the advantages and disadvantages of the current rate of innovation for people looking for work within the tech space are?
So that's a really good question. Obviously, I've not been a recruiter within the tech space, and I've not necessarily been a technologist in terms of deep understanding of the technologies. I would say I'm more of like a specialist generalist. So my career is based around actually understanding a really broad depth of broad width of lots of different things. And I would say that that's a kind of increasing role. So if you're looking at kind of the way that the rate of innovation is changing, being able to be adaptable to that as it starts to increase, and with the idea about things becoming more accessible for non-technical people, if you're looking at being a specialist generalist, then you're looking at creating more consistency in the way that you approach technology, and that gives you a greater ability to adapt as these changes come forward.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Zafira, I'll come to you next, if that's all right.
Yes, so what we find is that candidates really just need to be a little bit more open-minded in the current market, and as well have a more clear idea about their future aspirations than ever. So they need to be ready to continuously pretty much keep their technology up to date as the market is evolving faster than ever. Therefore, anyone not being willing to put the effort in and energy into the provided trainings will definitely fall behind and have difficulties to catch up later on. Saying that, there's few companies still working and looking to stay on premise, for instance, need definitely expertise with older technologies more than ever. So candidates wanting to be working with the newest technologies and the shiniest piece of tech stack often are not interested anymore in the good old tech, which has clearly created, for instance, a niche recruitment market for us. This has been one of our sub-focus within the team in the last 6 months. Where we as a team have been pretty successful at the end of the last year. However, this year it has shifted back again and a bit more, and we need to focus more on the high in demand cloud technologies.
Amazing, thank you. And last but not least, Max?
I mean, the advantage for people looking to step into the market for the first time is they can learn whatever new technologies have come out most recently, and they'll know that it's going to give them a niche skill set that no one else will have for the next 2 years whilst they get into the market. So it's a great entrance step for people that are just trying to get into this technology space. As far as people who are already in the space, it does make it a bit more difficult for them. So that's the disadvantage. These things aren't easy to get hold of. They're not easy to find guidance on because of how few people work on them. And so it's kind of a self-learning situation. But again, that's something that now with tools like ChatGPT, you have additional help with, right? Because it's able to tell you how to do it. So it's completely automated. The disadvantages are the constant change and spread of these things. So right now, companies are basing a lot of what they utilize on the cost of the business. And what you have is large organizations that will use a lot of legacy tech because it's already authorized from a red tape perspective internally, and it's cheap in comparison to the new tools. So people that are trying to innovate themselves are not able to do it inside of business because they have to stay on legacy systems in order to achieve whatever common company policies are allowing them to achieve.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And again, guys, remember, if you do have any questions for our speakers, please feel free to use the chat tool, and we'll come to those at the end. So I'll go on to our next question. Zafia, I'll start with you if that's all right. How would you say Oliver James guides and helps its candidates to detail their tech experiences during the recruitment process?
Yeah, so we really pride ourselves in providing the best candidate experience possible, and therefore we also invest a significant amount of time with our candidates to ensure we have a great understanding of their technical hands-on expertise and as well their future aspirations. We thoroughly check your CVs, give suggestions, give suggestions for improvements, how to improve the details to showcase your technical expertise. Then once we have successfully secured the interview for you, we are working closely with you and provide interview preparation, where we even teach you some useful marketing techniques such as the STAR model for you to use during these interviews just to ensure your success in the process.
Fantastic, thank you. And Max, I'll come on to you next if that's all right.
Yeah, so as Sophia mentioned, teams, well, my teams particularly, we provide full critical resume review, which is something that people around here in the US pay. I've heard people pay $3,000 for, right? We do it for free. We do the interview preps and stuff like that, just to provide a maximum level of support along your job search journey, because we know how stressful and uncertain it can be without a recruiter alongside you. Stuff like the ratios that you see people, I've applied for 600 jobs and I never got one interview. We're the key to making that ratio a lot smaller.
Amazing, thank you very much. And Max, I'll stick with you for the next question if that's all right. Would you say, due to the current market position, what is your top tip for a candidate looking for their next opportunity within the tech market?
Honestly, it's working with recruiters. We're a free service. We're free and we're here for you to lean on. We have the most insight into current markets. We have the most insight to what kinds of businesses are actually hiring right now. We're the most well-connected individuals in the space because we talk to and connect with everyone every day. And we know what the trends are. If you wanted to look specifically at something such as what kind of companies are actually using the tech you're qualified for and what kind of tech you're interested in learning, we can provide the insight into where to look and where to go.
Fantastic. And Zafia, did you have anything to add to that?
Yes, so as Max mentioned, I also can recommend connecting with the right recruitment expert who's operating within your expertise. Just be transparent throughout the process to ensure more success for yourself. Besides that, I think a really big one is connecting and following the right experts within that field, and LinkedIn is definitely highly beneficial, so you can keep up to date with upcoming trends, available training materials, and current market information.
Amazing. And Paul?
I think my biggest thing would be that obviously every job spec is going to have, they want an innovative thinker, they want strategically minded, they want well organized. I think work with your recruiter to understand actually what's the problem the job's trying to solve, and target that as part of your application, and build your confidence around the problem that you're going to solve for that company. I think it's easy to try and generically tick all the boxes of the role, but actually if you can build that trust with your recruiter and say, well, actually, what is it that this company in this role is trying to solve, and that can really kind of build you from there.
Fantastic, guys. Well, thank you very much for all your answers so far. We'll now be going on to the Q&A section, where I'd like to introduce my colleague, Steph Tyler, who will be running this with me. Steph, would you like to say hi?
Yeah, hi everyone, and thank you everyone for running through that. I hope everyone found it as interesting and useful as I did. So we've had a couple of questions that have come through directly. So the first one I'm going to direct to Paul. So we've had a question through, in order for a business to stay ahead of the market, are there any particular trends or innovations you would recommend for businesses to look into?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think as a business, you've got to decide where you fit on that adoption curve. So are you the innovators that are early adopters? Are you those that take that and have the ability to take that risk? Do you have a fail fast culture that allows you to go, right, we're gonna try this, we're gonna see if it works, we're going to invest a little bit, and we're going to work out how to move forward from there, knowing that it's not a guaranteed success? Or are you that slightly later on in terms of, no, the value's been proven by those early adopters and those innovators, and then we're able to ramp up from there? It's always really interesting to see how the VC investment trends work. So if you look, it's probably 2 or 3 or 5 years in front of that early adoption curve. So you'll see a huge amount of investment into machine learning and AI through the late 2010s, and then what we're seeing now is much more investment into medical tech being a massive one, but that's probably a post-COVID thing. So it's about actually determining what type of adopter you are within your business, and then that can really work out, actually, am I looking at VC trends? Am I then looking at actually the first iteration of those corporate adoption, and then where do I place myself in terms of a business?
Brilliant, thanks, Paul. So next one, Max, I'm going to come to you for this. With so many new innovations happening in the tech market, what is the best approach to deciding which tech to focus on to ensure you have a long-term career, or is it just a case where you need to continually upskill on different technologies?
So in terms, I'll two-part this because it's an interesting combination of questions, right? So in terms of tech to focus on, if you're somebody coming into the market, obviously the generalist technologies is where you're going to want to start. Stuff like Python, anything in the C stack, if you're in software development, anything Microsoft is usually a safe bet. But then moving into like actual tools that you're going to be working with on a day-to-day basis, starting with the newer technologies, as I mentioned, right? If you're somebody focusing on finance, you're somebody focusing on insurance, you're generally going to be working with legacy tech. So learning anything on the AWS, from AWS cloud stack, so the Hives, Hadoops, HDFSs, or if you're on Google Cloud, working BigQuery and so forth, right? Focusing on a specialism is usually going to be the way to go. So focus on one cloud and base the tools that you're going to work with around that. In terms of, do you need to continually upskill? Yes, of course you need to continually upskill, because the businesses you work for will eventually innovate, which means you need to be prepared to innovate yourself as well, right? So yes, continually upskill, because eventually the platforms that they use will stop being updated and they're going to need to migrate onto something else. Bank of America are doing that right now, and it's thrown a lot of them completely out of whack, because a lot of the people that worked in there didn't innovate themselves and they don't understand the tools. We're doing quite a big managed service project in there right now to help them with a migration. So yes, the answer to both is yes.
Perfect. Thanks, Max. And just to kind of add to that, with the whole continuously upskilling, what would be your recommendations for people? Like, how can they continuously upskill within these different areas and different technologies?
I think it's good to specialize. So if you specialize in one cloud platform area, it's easy to identify what kind of tools you're going to have to learn as they come through, because tools are very specific as to what kind of things they work well with, right? If you work on Azure, so if you're working on Microsoft stack, Microsoft are very clever around the way that they code their platforms, and a lot of the time it's only going to be Microsoft tools that work alongside it very nicely. So it would be a case of keeping up with trends and new technologies that come out based on the platforms you're working on.
The other thing I'd add to that, onto Max's comments, is try and make it project or purposeful. Certainly as a hiring manager, there's nothing better than someone talking me through why they've learned something and how they went and how they tackled a problem. It's fine to do training courses and to show certifications, but if you can say, look, I saw something here that I really wanted to try and get my teeth into, and this is how I approached it. That approach to learning to employees is so important. If I think someone's got a really well structured, consistent way of learning and a really good approach to show that they've actually taken something that step further, that's a huge plus.
Brilliant. Thank you both there. So Sophia, I'm going to come to you for our next question. So you mentioned about there being a specific pathway for learning around technologies before you begin learning any new technologies that come onto the market. What should this pathway look like?
Yeah, so here are coming two ways I will try to answer. So what I have mentioned within, for instance, the data science space, there's been a hiring manager where we have built up the data science team, and he's always said that he would never hire a data scientist who's not been a data engineer to start with. So that brings me back to my all-over answer for the question. Just do your basis. If you are at the beginning of your career or even before your studies, choose wisely what you are studying. Don't skip that old stack. Do learn it. Try to get involved in some student work. So when you leave the university, you already have something in your hand, and just be really keen within that student activity, because in Germany it's quite often, sometimes it's written in the CV that they've done half a year internship, for instance, but in reality they really just were making coffees sometimes. So really give your best and make the most of the opportunities in front of you. And when you start your career, and perhaps you don't have that much commitment in the personal life, try to choose a company who are really fast forward looking, and they offer those innovative tech trainings and as well as certificates, because one big problem being in Germany is that a lot of companies offer the trainings, but they don't want to pay for the certificate. So that means when you leave the company, you can write in your CV that you have done the trainings, but really without the certificate, that's not always acceptable, especially if you're looking to get into a bigger company. collect all those experiences at the beginning of your career, so you can get a big picture onto, okay, where do I actually want to specialize, and you have a broad understanding of all the platform technologies, regardless which one you decide to specialize in. And then after that, just keep up with the newest trends. I think what we can see on LinkedIn, for instance, it's incredible, and all the other platforms you can follow the best experts, take their advice, do visit those online webinars and seminars, and just be active within your market.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sophia. And our final question, Max, I'm going to come back to you. How can OJ help me find opportunities in these new areas, these new technology innovations that are coming out, on a regular basis? Or how can they help me to explore potentially new avenues?
So, I mean, obviously it depends on where you're located, but reaching out to any recruiter at Oliver James, they will put you in touch with the right individual. The basic answer to this is we have thousands of clients across the globe. We know what every single tech stack all of them are working with is. So based on the goals that you have in terms of technologies that you want to work with, or different tools that are coming out that we may have heard one company is implementing at some point in the future, the only way you're going to ever find that information out is just by reaching out to us. Right. So any Oliver James recruiter in any location across the globe will put you in touch with the correct recruiter if it's in a different location very, very quickly. One of the women that I work with on the West Coast here, her son is based in the UK and does stuff in actuarial, so completely different to my market. But I just reached out to Yola, one of our colleagues in England, who dealt with it almost immediately. So they're now working together. It's very simple.
Perfect. Amazing. Thanks, Max. And that's it in terms of our Q&A. So Marion, I'll hand back over to you.
Amazing. Thanks very much. I hope you guys found that interesting, and thank you to Steph for hosting our Q&A. And with that, it concludes today's webinar. So I hope you found today's content useful and interesting. A big thank you to our speakers, Paul, Zafira, and Max. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. If we've been unable to answer your questions during the session, please feel free to connect with our speakers on LinkedIn, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any questions. Or please drop us an email, and again, we would be happy to answer any questions. Over the next couple of days, please keep an eye out for our LinkedIn recording. We'll post a recording directly to the page and to our YouTube as well, so keep an eye out for that. But other than that, that's it from us. Thanks again for tuning in, and we hope to see you again very soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.